What is going on, everyone? Let's take a look at the states with the highest percentage of residents that need a little help. Today we're looking at states with the highest per capita of residents on welfare. There are a lot of misconceptions about welfare. The first one is that only inner city people are on welfare. It's actually per capita about evenly split between rural and city people. Some people think that it's just only one political party's states that have welfare. No, all states have it, and the top 10 is about evenly split. And a lot of people think that welfare is just free money dropped into lazy people's accounts. No, that's not the case. They do have forms of welfare that will get people money, but the biggest factor is food and what most people call food stamps. It has different names, but most people just refer to it as food stamps. I mean, you have SNAP, which is one that most states use, then like California has Cal Food, and Washington has a program called Basic Food, but most states use SNAP. And that's what we're looking at today, food stamps and the per capita of the highest states. To give you an idea of how high these states are, the state with the lowest rate is Wyoming, with only 4,400 people for every 100,000 residents on some form of food stamps. Now we'll go by the per capita, because if we just went by the total number, obviously the most populated states would have the most people on some form of food stamp: California, Texas, Florida, New York. I'll give you those numbers towards the end of the video, and they are shocking numbers. So stay tuned for that. Now, in my opinion, I think these programs are good. Everyone needs a little help every now and then. Sure, you could find people that have abused the system, but 90% of the time, it's just people that have hit a rough patch and they need some help. And that's exactly what it's designed for, to help our fellow citizens get through some rough times. Let's take a look. Number 10, Oregon. If you know anything about what's been going on in the Beaver State in recent years and the homeless crisis we have here, this should be no surprise to anyone. I've actually volunteered. Well, the companies I worked for offered you time off to go do something like this. They give you a whole day off if you went and volunteered down at like the food bank or something like that here in Oregon. So, you work 4 hours and you get 8 hours worth of pay. So I was all on board with that. And it was eye-opening. I talked to a lot of the people, and most of them just that's exactly it. They just lost their job 2 months ago and things are tight. Things like that. That's why people get on these things. That's why they go to the food bank. That's why they're on SNAP here in Oregon. Oregon moved down the list, though, to number 10. We did this video like 4 years ago, and they were like number 6. They're at number 10 here with 13,617 per every 100,000 residents here in Oregon are on SNAP or food stamps. And Oregon spends $133 a month per person. Number 9, Pennsylvania. When we did this list a couple years back, Pennsylvania didn't even show up. They were not in the top 10, and here they are at number 9. Philadelphia does have some pretty poverty-stricken areas, and that's where a lot of their benefits go to, but they also have some rural communities that are in bad shape. They got a lot of beautiful, great rural communities in Pennsylvania, but like any state, you're going to have some places that aren't doing that well. They're about evenly split between city and rural population, though, when it comes to people on SNAP and food stamps and things like that. They also use the SNAP program, and they've got 13,743 residents on SNAP for every 100,000 residents, and they spend about $129 a month per person. Number 8, Rhode Island. About 15% of the population of Rhode Island is on SNAP, and their per capita is 13,954 for every 100,000 residents. And like I said, they're on SNAP, and they spend about $144 a month on each one of those individuals. Number 7, Illinois. Now, Illinois has Chicago, obviously, and that's where a majority of the people on SNAP are, is in the Chicago metro area. They have a lot of poverty-stricken neighborhoods, and just about everyone's on it there. Now, the rural communities in Illinois are not immune. They have it too, but obviously a vast majority are going to be in Chicago. In Illinois, 14,135 residents per every 100,000 are on SNAP, and they spend $135 a month on each one of them. Number 6, Oklahoma. So Oklahoma's doing better than they did a few years back. A few years back, they were at number 3, and here they are at number 6. They're doing a lot better. Almost 65% of the residents on SNAP are in rural communities in Oklahoma. They have a lot of rundown little towns that are just overwhelmed with poverty. In Oklahoma, 14,567 for every 100,000 residents is on SNAP. And in Oklahoma, they spend $128 on average per person in the SNAP program. Number 5, Alabama. Alabama's really kind of bipolar when it comes to their residents. You've got some really poverty-stricken rural communities and cities, and then you have some really, really nice and expensive places. One thing I've always appreciated about Alabama, and it doesn't matter where the people live, how much money they make or don't make, 9 out of 10 times they're just going to be great people, greet you with a smile, handshake, hug, whatever. They're just always seem to be the best people in Alabama. That's kind of a thing with most of the South. I mean, Florida, they're just a bunch of tools, but most of the South, the people are just great people. And yeah, it's really strange. Alabama's one of the better ones when it comes to that. But in Alabama, 14,568 residents per every 100,000 are on their food assistance program, and they spend about $129 a month per person on that program. Number 4, Mississippi. Yes, our old friend Mississippi. As you'll see, the rest of this list is our usual suspects. These are the who's who of suckage states. They always show up around the bottom of any negative video about states. The only surprise here is Mississippi isn't number 1. You know, say what you will about Mississippi, and I say a lot of things about Mississippi. I've got a lot of family that come from there. I've seen this state in and out. Yeah, it's a mess. But the people are always great, much like Alabama. Just wonderful people. The state is just run horribly and always has been. One feather in the Magnolia State is they're the last state before we take a really big jump in per capita numbers. Mississippi has 14,849 residents per every 100,000 on SNAP, and they spend $120 per person on the SNAP program. Number 3, Louisiana. Or as a friend from the Army used to call it, Louisiana. I don't know why he said it like that. He was from Louisiana, but he would call it Louisiana. No L. There was a W there at the beginning, according to that dude. He showed up at basic training, I'm not even kidding, in overalls and work boots, and it didn't look like he had washed those overalls for a month before he got there. Good guy, don't get me wrong. He just came right off the farm, it looked like. We'll give that guy one thing. When we were in the field, if he was with us, like out, doing our maneuvers or whatever, he would find food everywhere we went, like catch fish, whatever. Caught a gopher one time and he was going to eat it, and then one of the sergeants told him not to. I wasn't going to eat the gopher, but still. And he was all, that's good meat on that thing. I'm not eating a gopher. But he did steal some chickens one time, and those were good. I don't know if my friend Labatt was on food stamps when he lived there or the SNAP program, but 17,788 Louisiana residents for every 100,000 are on the SNAP program, and they spend $135 a month on each member. Number 2, West Virginia. I always get a little depressed when West Virginia shows up on a negative list. I honestly think this state, like I've said before, has been just dealt some really bad hands and has had some really bad luck over the last decade or so. A lot of people just have this view of West Virginia of all these mountain folks that live up in the hills and just, no dentists, no nothing like that. And they just live in the hills and eat squirrel, things like that. They got a lot of people that do that. I mean, let those people live their own life. That's how they want to do things, fine. But a lot of their welfare goes to some of their cities because they don't have jobs. You got a lot of people that are still recovering from the opioid crisis, and some of them are still in the middle of the opioid crisis. It's a really sad situation. But 17,878 residents in West Virginia per every 100,000 are on the SNAP program, and West Virginia spends $117 a month on each one of them. All right, before we get to number 1, don't forget we have another channel called On This Day. There's a link down below. We'd love it if you went over there, checked it out, maybe subscribe. Okay, so I promised I'd give you the scary numbers of just the sheer volume of people that are on it in some of the most populated states. Or here are the 10 states with the most recipients, not per capita, just the most. Number 10, Michigan with 1.1 million, North Carolina with 1.3 million, Ohio with 1.4 million, Georgia with 1.4 million, Pennsylvania with 1.7 million, Illinois with 1.7 million, New York with 2.6 million, Florida with 2.8 million, Texas with 3.5 million, and California with 3.8 million residents on SNAP. Now, obviously, those states have the highest population, so they're going to have the highest numbers, but those are just alarming. California, over 3 million of their residents are on public assistance or SNAP program. Pretty scary. Anyway, on to number 1. And number 1, New Mexico. New Mexico isn't just at number 1, they're well above everyone else on this list. Like we'd said, West Virginia was just about 18,000 per every 100,000 residents. New Mexico is killing it with 22,768 residents for every 100,000 on the SNAP program. And they spend $127 a month on each one of them. Over 21% of New Mexico's population is on SNAP. That one's a little depressing. New Mexico's, they've had a rough way to go, just like West Virginia in recent years, probably the last decade and a half. But I don't know, hopefully they'll turn it around. Things are looking good for them. The future, I should say. Not next year or the next year, but probably the next decade or so. New Mexico might even fall off this list or at least get out of the top 5. All right, everyone, that's today's video. Hope you guys got some information out of it. Hope you enjoyed it. Never hate on anyone that's in a rough spot in their life. I mean, most, like I said, about 90% of the people on programs like this just have hit a rough patch, and they're on and off it within a year, and that's what it's designed for. And I know there's going to be plenty of comments about how it's abused and it's just giving things to people that don't want to work. Yeah, I'm sure there is some of that, but it's not anywhere near 50% or even 30%. It's like 10% maybe, and they get that lower all the time. All right, everyone, have a great day. Be nice to each other.